Yeah, well, she lives with a husband who can't remember anything, so I think she can forget every once in a while. Good morning. Lovely morning, only 79 degrees. Middle of July, 79 degrees. The day that I can kind of like kick back and sit in the pool, it's going to be 79 degrees, not 100. That's the way it goes. You know, thanks to my gracious neighbor who came and mowed my yard yesterday for me. I don't have to worry about that. So, we're back in Matthew still. I can just say, okay, we're still in Matthew because it's been a year or so. But Matthew 16, remember we talked about the last couple of weeks how Jesus is going to keep revealing himself and revealing what's going to happen to him. We left his ministry to more focus on now his disciples and his apostles and teaching them and preparing them for what's to come. Now, we've read the end of the book, so we know what's to come. They don't yet, but Jesus is trying to prepare them for it and what's coming over the hill. Last week we saw that Peter was the man, right? Who do you say I am? And he says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Rock on, right? You ever been in that situation where you're just rocking and everything's going great and you're a hero, and then the next day you're a zero, right? Happens to me at work all the time. Like one day I'll be like the hero, the next day I'll mess something up and I'll be the zero, right? It's the way it goes, I'm telling you. Well, Peter's on top of the world, right? Because he is the one who made the declaration, right? We all believe this, but I'm the one that said it because I'm the leader. You know, they kind of voted me the leader because, you know, I got a big mouth, I think is what Peter says. I don't know if that's a quote or not, so don't quote me. But he's on top of the world. He's telling Christ, you are the man, right? You are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God. You are the Messiah. And once again, Jesus is going to sit down and say, listen, guys, yes, I am. Don't tell nobody, right? This is for us right now. This is not the time or the place. Every time, remember in the book of John, when we went through the book of John, every time they try to take Jesus and make him king, or take Jesus and try to kill him, he always slipped away, right? Because it wasn't the time. It wasn't his time. His time is God's timing, and it's always perfect, right? As Jesus is trying to prepare his apostles and all his disciples and what's going to happen, we're going to see in this section 21, this is chapter 16, 21 through 29, the end of the chapter. We're going to see some things, we're going to hear some things, we're going to question some things, all right? There's a very controversial, not controversial in oh my gosh, I can't believe he did it. It's controversial in trying to figure out exactly what Jesus was saying in one of these passages. And when we get to there, we'll talk about it. But it's about the necessity of us dying to ourselves, okay? Jesus is going to talk about the necessity for him to die. But then he goes on and says, you have to die too. You have to suffer too. You will see what I see. You will experience somewhat what I've experienced. And most of those disciples, those apostles sitting there, experienced either the same or worse, right? In the human realm, you know. Thomas getting flayed alive, that's pretty bad. All right? That's pretty rough. All right? Peter getting crucified upside down, the story of John being boiled in oil but not dying, you know, all that kind of stuff. So he was preparing them for what was to come. All right? He was preparing them that they would have to pick up their cross. They one day would take that walk of death too. But what he's trying to tell them is, you need to be prepared to die now. As he's telling us. As he's telling us that. So let's get into this. Look at the first verse, 21. Jesus is trying to explain why he needs to die. He's trying to explain to them and reveal to them a little bit more of who he is, right? And what he's there for. So verse 21. From that time forth, Jesus began to show to the disciples how that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and raised again on the third day. Now, if we know anything about Peter, we know what? He jumps. He's very quick, right? He's going to jump in there really quick. He's ready, fire, aim, right? Peter. All right? So, Peter hears something but doesn't hear it all. I sometimes have that problem with my wife. I hear something, but I don't always hear it all. Right? And I'll argue to the death that she did not say that. Jesus was getting more detailed in his predictions. Remember, last chapter he had said that he was going to have to die, but not to worry that he would be raised in 3 days. Right? Now he's getting a little bit more open about it and what's going to happen, the details of what's going to happen. It's going to be the chief scribes and the elders, and they're going to kill him, right? But he will be raised again. Unfortunately, what does Peter hear? They're going to kill you. He must have blocked out that last little section right there, and he says, no, they're not going to kill you, right? So much did Peter believe that by cracky, they were not going to kill Jesus, that when they came to take Jesus, what did he do? He picked up a sword and started swinging. Right? And started swinging. Because he was not going to let them take his Messiah. See, he still had that picture of not the suffering servant, but of the king, the conquering king. Right? He still had that picture. No matter how many times Jesus said, no, that's not, you're not getting this quite right, okay? Peter still had that thought. Peter still had that belief that he is the conquering king, he is the Christ, and he's going to save us all, right? He is the Christ, he got that right, he knew he was the Son of God, but he was not going to let anybody hurt his Messiah, right? Whether they believed it or not, we know who he is, and we're going to stand there and we're going to protect him. Jesus says, hey, I'm going to Jerusalem. I have to go to. If you remember the book of John, remember his brothers were kind of teasing him, his stepbrothers, or half-brothers, I guess it would be. His half-brothers kind of said, oh, well, there's a big festival down there. Why don't you go down there and present yourself as the king? And Jesus said what? Said, no, it's not my time yet. Jesus went, but he kind of like snuck in and out. Right? He didn't want to be noticed. But he's saying, listen, I have to go to Jerusalem. This is not the time, but I will. There come a time that I have to go to Jerusalem. I have to. I will have to suffer many things. And Jesus says he'll be killed. But he also says, I will be resurrected. I will be raised again on the third day. This is a very detailed, specific thing that Jesus is laying out here, right? Hey, I got to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to get tortured. They're going to do bad things to me. I'm going to die. But on the third day, I'm going to raise again. Hear that, Peter? No? All Peter heard was, no, we're not going to let you die. Ain't nobody going to come down here and mess with my family. Right? Ain't nobody going to die here and mess with my pastor. Remember that. Mess with my rabbi. Mess with the Son of God. It's not going to happen. Peter was still thinking of the conquering king, not the suffering servant. So verse 22, then Peter took him, so he gets him aside, out of earshot probably of the other disciples, because Peter's used to speaking up in front of everybody and Jesus smacking him down, right? So he says, hey, Jesus, come over. Right? Gets him aside and says, no, it's not going to happen. He rebuked Jesus. That's some boldness right there. He just said he was the Son of God, right? But yet he's going to rebuke Jesus. Be it far from you, Lord. This shall not be to you. He's saying, I'm not going to let this happen. Never, never, Lord. What some of the other translations? Far be it, O Lord. Right? He's emphatically telling him, no, I'm not going to let you die. I'm not going to let this happen to you. We have to stay away from Jerusalem for the rest of our lives, then we'll stay away from Jerusalem. Right? They're not going to come get you. Peter and the other disciples didn't think that the Messiah should suffer, right? They're still under that Old Testament thing where they see that picture of the conquering king. That's why they've been waiting so long for their Messiah. They've been under other people's rules, with the exception of the small little time period of the Maccabees overthrowing the Greeks, right, for 100 and some years. They've been under somebody else's thumb for all those years. Since Babylon took them over, right? So they're saying, no, the Messiah is going to come and they're going to solve all of this stuff, right? He's going to save all of us. Not knowing exactly what it was meant by save all of us. So they're still operating under that picture. And they're thinking, well, this is not going to happen. We can hold them. We can hold them off. We can keep them away from Jerusalem. We'll hide out somewhere. We'll do whatever we have to do because the Messiah is not going to suffer. Right? And what's Jesus tell them? But he turned and said to Peter, "Get ye behind me, Satan." Ouch. Ouch. Right? Peter thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks earthly things, not heavenly things. I'm guilty of it. I suppose maybe we're all guilty of this, I would say. That sometimes we think of earthly before heavenly. Because it's affecting us right here, right now. But in the big scheme of things, it really doesn't mean anything. But right now, it means a lot. Right? Right now, this means a lot to me. I have to focus on this and forget about the other side. Peter is thinking about this. He's thinking about earthly things. Matthew 4. Anybody remember what happened in Matthew 4? 40 days in the desert. Remember that? 40 days in the desert. And what does Satan do? You can have all the kingdoms in the world. Just bow down and worship me, and it's all yours. You don't need to go and suffer when you can do it easily. So when he looks at Peter, he sees Satan whispering in his ears, "Hey, you need to protect him. He doesn't need to go to Jerusalem and die. It'll be all good." And that's why he says, "Get you behind me, Satan." Right? You are an offense to me. Could you imagine Jesus saying that? It about brings a tear to my eye right now, just thinking about it, because I'm scared to death he might say that to me one day when I get in front of him. You're an offense to me. This is the same guy. He says, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah. Blessed are you." Right? He's the one who just said, "You are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God. You are the man. You are the Messiah." And yet, you're not thinking correctly. You're thinking about yourself. I know that nobody else but me has been guilty of that. Just worried about ourselves. When Lisa had said this morning that she knows two people personally that's been healed this month from cancer. Boom, done. See, we focus on, oh my gosh, David, you said it. Oh my gosh, I got to schedule my other surgery because that's done. Well, why not just schedule the next healing? Believe that Jesus can do that. Trust that it can be done. Right? So instead of focusing on this, now it doesn't say that we forget about this, right? But maybe we need to be more focused on Him and less focused on the problem down here. I do the same thing, right? When something happens, Rich was real good the other day. As I'm yelling and screaming because I lost my phone, and I knew what I did with it. I stuck it on the back of the dude's truck and he took off. And I'm like driving everywhere. I run over to Rich's. I said, hey, can you call my phone? Go to the house, call the phone. Just maybe it fell off somewhere and don't know where I put it. Right? We're driving around and I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out because I can hear the voice of my lovely wife saying, not again. Fear. We almost got this one paid off from the last time you lost it, right? As I'm focused on this, trying to find my phone, Rich goes, let's just pray that God will find it. God find his phone. Let it be. Yeah, what an idea. What a Enoch idea. I'm driving my way, couldn't find the phone anywhere. Driving my way to AT&T up in Warrenton, and I'm driving and said, Lord, I know you can find it. I know. Without a doubt, you can. Just pray that somebody turns it down. I don't care if they find it and throw it on the front porch, throw it wherever they want to throw it. And it has everything in it, right? All my passcodes, all my work stuff, because I can't get into my computers at work unless I have it, my phone and my passcodes and all this other stuff, right? Crazy stuff in there. I'm arguing with the AT&T lady, and I'm arguing with the iPhone people, Apple people, trying to figure out why can't I get into my account. If I can't get into my account, it's going to take a couple of weeks for them to open my iCloud account because my authentication isn't working correctly. I said, I've got it written down right here, the exact same thing that I did when I started to open it up. I kept it in my phone box so I wouldn't lose it. Called my wife, said, okay, I'm going to have to buy a new phone. I had to pay off my old phone, what was left of it. Paid it off. I had to use they kept telling me, well, you can call Apple, you can call AT&T, and you can, I don't have a phone. How am I supposed to call anybody, right? Just driving me crazy. So as we're putting around, the phone rings at the store. And the lady answers and says, yes. You mean that guy in the cut-off yellow shirt? That's what I was wearing, was my cut-off yellow shirt. And she goes, I think this is for you. I walk over there, my wife said, somebody found it. They found it. They found it. They're going to put it on our porch. They found it. Why all this stuff is going on? All this stuff is going on over here. God's got it already done over here. So before I can do anything with the new phone, because they can't just get into the safe, they have to put in the code and wait about 10 minutes before the safe will open. That way nobody can go in there and steal, break in and steal all the phones. So during all this time, God's got this going on over here. I don't have any clue. And before I could sign on the dotted line or do anything with the new phone, she called me and said, they found it. I went, you the man. I was doing it earthly. He was doing it heavenly. Stupid, crazy little things, I don't want to do what God gave me. God gave me a front row parking spot at Costco. But I know God can do mighty things. He can heal people with cancer. Why can't he find a cell phone? Right? How that phone stayed on the back of that truck is a miracle in itself. is a miracle in itself, but it did. All of that to say, maybe we shouldn't focus so much on this and our problems here, because we're like Peter, focusing on earthly things. Because if I was Peter, I might be doing the same thing. I got Jesus with me. I don't want to lose him. Dude, I'll do anything to hang out with this guy. I ain't gonna let nothing happen to him, right? So I can kind of understand that. But Jesus is saying you're not getting it. You're thinking about this and earthly things. I'm thinking about heavenly things. My Father's plan. It's about getting it done. Right? That's harsh words. That's what I love about Jesus. David's kind of the same way. I'll give it to David. He don't pull no punches. Right? He don't go pull no punches. I wish I had more of that. Sometimes I do. A lot of times I don't. Jesus didn't pull no punches. When he said, you were wrong, and this is wrong, he didn't pull no punches. He didn't try to go around the bush to get to the front, right? He was bold about that. That's it, done. You were wrong. Peter and John, in the book of Acts, I don't care what man says, I am not going to stop preaching about the Lord Jesus Christ. Point blank, same guy who ran away 60 days before that or so, right? Denied knowing Christ. Bold. And Peter's just saying, Jesus, I love you, right? I love you. I want what's best for you. And Jesus is saying, you don't understand what's best for me. My Father does. You don't. You have to trust me and to know what I'm doing is correct. Right? You have to trust me. I don't want you to suffer. Right? Jesus, I don't want you to suffer. And Jesus saying, but I have to. And you will understand. Maybe not now. How many times have we gone through stuff and then when we look back, we get, that's why. I understand it now. Why? Because I can witness to somebody else who's going through the same thing I went through. I can empathize with somebody who's done the same thing and had to happen the same thing. Right? There's a reason why we're here. There's a reason why we're still here. We're still here because we're not finished yet with God's work for us. There's still someone out there that we need to touch. It might be one, it might be 100, or whatever, but we're not done here. Jesus still has a plan for us here. We're not finished. Right? I don't want to be finished. If I'm finished, I'm dead. I want to keep going until he comes back. Right? We'll be like John, just keep putting. Just keep going. Preaching. Loving. But Jesus is saying you're not thinking about God's concerns. You're thinking about human concerns. I don't want to do that because that's really going to hurt. I got another knee surgery coming up. I'm going to get a new knee eventually. Very soon, probably. I don't want to go through that. It hurts. To be blunt, it sucks. But I know what it's going to do and be in a year from now. And it's going to be all worth that. Jesus is saying, think about the future, not humanly, right? To Peter, not humanly, but heavenly. And I know when I look back at this day, a year from now, and I go, I didn't want to get a new knee because it was going to hurt. And I'm walking around on a new knee finally going, yeah, thank God I got a new knee, right? Not the same equation, but you see what I'm saying. You're more concerned about human than godly things. We all fall into that trap. We all think about that stuff, right? Some of us more than others. But why did Jesus have to die? right? Jesus takes the whole discussion about death, and then he kind of turns it around. He kind of turns around. In verses 24 through 27 it says, "Then said Jesus to his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whomever will save his life shall lose it. And whomever will lose his life for my sake, will find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works." So Jesus looks at them, and he says, yes, I'm going to die. But you need to die too. You need to die too. Everyone out there needs to die, right? We all need to die so we can live. The greatest flip around ever, right? Because all of these people out here in the world thinking they're alive and living, they're really dead. They're really dead. Dead inside. I was dead inside for all those years, trying to fill that hole with whatever I thought would fill it. But I was dead inside. But when I died to Christ, I'm alive. Amen. I'm alive. And Jesus is saying, listen, you don't get it. I'm going to die. I'm going to suffer. But you're going to die too. You're going to be alive. But you're going to suffer. You're going to struggle. You're going to go through these things. Why? For my sake. Because if you do it for my sake, then I will bless you. I will reward you in the end. You do it for your sake, they're dead works. Right? Dead. I will reward you. Every little thing that we do. Got a text last night. I didn't get the text till this morning when I got up at 6. And it was a text from the city manager texting me and my chief saying that she ran into a lady at Schnucks, said that how impressed she was that Tyler was out there driving around, hitting the neighborhoods and seeing everybody, and they were really happy about that the police presence had been stepped up. And she said, I thought you needed to know that. But how many times have I done that nobody said anything, right? How many times I've gone through that neighborhood at 6 o'clock in the morning before school, driving through, make sure there ain't nobody hanging out, nobody doing nothing they're not supposed to be doing right before I go over to the school, and nobody notices it. Or nobody says it. They might notice, nobody says it. Right? Jesus knows everything that we do for him. He doesn't miss it. And we might not be rewarded for it here, but he'll reward us there for it. Those little things that we do that nobody really sees, that we don't tell anybody about, we just do. We'll be rewarded. You tell everybody about it, then you got your reward here, right? But Jesus sees everything. He's not going to miss it. He's not going to miss somebody doing something in his name. Somebody doing something because it's the right thing to do, right? For love. For love's sake, to show them who you are and who we trust in, right? To show them we are Christians. He's not going to miss that stuff. Your employer might miss that, right? Your spouse might miss that. He's not going to miss it. He's not going to miss anything you do. Jesus was willing to stay committed to the task, right? But he's also looking at us saying we need to be committed to that task too. I need to die for his sake too, so that I can live. And what glory we will see when we get there. Right? What glory we will see. Now I talked about a not really controversial text, but a text that you could argue for days and days and years, and it's probably been argued for millennia now. Right? Verse 28. Truly I say to you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till you see the Son of Man coming into his kingdom. Some believe. I saw a YouTube thing the other day. I saw the headline that said, John the Apostle still alive, found alive in Turkish caves. Well, that would make that true then. Some standing there, so John's still alive, waiting for his second coming, right? So some believe that might mean the second coming, but that doesn't make any sense, right? Because all those guys aren't there. They're there, they ain't here. Right? But some believe that, like chapter 17, we get into next week, it's the Mount of Transfiguration, because they see Jesus in all his glory, in his heavenly glory, standing there with Moses and Ezekiel. Or Ezekiel? Elijah. Yeah. Thank you. So some believe it's that, the Transfiguration, because only some of them were up there to see it, right? Only the four inner, or the in crowd, right? Rich, we're talking about the in. Or maybe they're talking about the resurrection. The only problem was there's only one person that saw the resurrection, right? That he talked to, Mary, right? The boys weren't there to see the resurrection. They saw him resurrected afterwards, right? And he could say some on that one. That might make sense, because when he comes to the room and he confronts them in the inner room, right? He comes through the walls, or however he comes through, right? Thomas is not there. We know somebody else is not there. Who? Judas is not there. Judas is already dead. So he's sitting there looking at these 12 guys saying, some will see. Some. Or could it mean when he's taken up in glory in Acts 1? Because now he is lifted high and gone back to his Father. Now, I've read, I've listened, I've heard, and I can tell you one thing. For sure. One thing. I have no idea. Quote that. No idea. And I don't think anybody else exactly knows. Could it be all those things? It could be all those things. I don't know. Nobody exactly knows. But what Jesus is saying is, hey, I'm revealing myself. And some of you are going to see me in glory. Some of you are going to see that. He already knew that he would lose one. He already knew that. Right? He already knew he was going to lose Judas. So when he said, he didn't want to point out, hey, Judas, you won't be here. But he's some of these guys, right? So maybe he's just being some of these guys being general. And it could be anyone. We know next chapter we see Peter and James and John up there, and Andrew watching this transfiguration. And when he says some, that would be pretty glorified, glory-filled, right? So that could be because they see him in who he is, truly, right? And who he is going to be. But nobody exactly knows. Is it the second coming? like to think so, but we should be with him in the second coming. Right? Guess who else will be with him in the second coming, maybe? Could some of those guys be with him in the second coming too? So I could make that the second coming. Right? If they're riding with us in glory. Like I said, once again, I have no idea. I have no idea. The only thing I do know is this. We must die to live. And we must die daily to live. Daily. Who is on that throne when you wake up in the morning? Is it Jesus or is it you? Who's on that throne? Die daily to live. I pray often. What? My favorite prayer. Lord, I believe. Help me with my unbelief. Let me see your glory. Let me see all of your glory. Let me never forget what you do, what you have done, and what you're going to do. Right? In his glory for you. But let us be those witnesses. Let us be that conduit. Let us be that for him. The death of Jesus leads to the death of sin. And if we are dead to sin, then that's a death to this world. Right? It's a death to this world. We are dead to sin and we must die to this world. Terrible thing to say, because I don't do it very well. Still working on it, work in progress. Still not the perfect husband, work in progress. Perfect father, work in progress. Longest winded pastor, work in progress. Right? It's a temptation of this world that we need to juxtapose against the rewards that we will have in heaven. Amen? I want to end with this because I thought it was so great. J. Vernon McGee points this out. He says this: to deny myself dessert is hard enough, but to deny myself is difficult indeed. Amen? It's a work in progress. Let's work and strive towards that. Lord, give us strength, give us power in your name. Lord, let us trust in you in all things. Let us believe in all things, Lord, that everything is possible with you. Lord, give us that faith we believe, and help us with our unbelief. Give us that strength, that boldness, and that power that comes with your name. And being believers, and being dead to sin and alive to you. Lord, dead to this world and alive to what's to come. Lord, we ask this in Jesus' precious name.